Alright, the story is to make students aware of how drugs affect you in school and social life. We have interviewed 2 stories from 2 different people.
We have 2 different people living 2 different lives. We have a former Stanley student who dropped out to go to rehab for drugs is our first interviewer. He asked to remain anonymous. Danielle Blake is our second student who doesn't do drugs because she has medical problems and it would interfere with her life.
I chose to do my project on people that use drugs and how their lives were using. The person I chose to interview wants to remain anonymous. So, why don't you start by telling me how you started?
Okay, so when I was 12 years old, I got drunk for my first time. My sister had a bottle of alcohol in her room, and I decided it would be fun to try, so I got drunk. Then the next year in middle school, I heard some friends talking about smoking weed, and I hung out with lots of older kids. So I decided to try it, and my older sister bought me some weed, and me and one of my best friends smoked weed for the first times. And I guess that's where it all started. I pretty much fell in love with it.
So like when you took your sister's alcohol, did you know you were getting drunk?
Yeah. I went into a room and like started drinking, and then like when I got back to my room, I remember just feeling so weird. Like I couldn't even move. Like I was really drunk, and I was watching cartoons and stuff, and everything was just so funny.
So like, was getting drunk, is that what led to you wanting to smoke weed? Or was that just like...
Yeah, definitely. Because I was like, ooh, that was fun. What else is like gonna be fun to try?
Yeah. After smoking weed, like what drugs did you try after that?
So I smoked weed, and then I had to get foot surgery when I was probably about 14, and that's probably the first time I tried painkillers. And I didn't really know they got you like high or anything, but I knew they made you feel relaxed. And so like I started taking them, and then I found out that they made you like get really high if you took more than you were supposed to. And I started doing that, and like even in 7th grade, I would call my grandpa and be like, "Hey grandpa, I don't feel good, I want to go home." And he would come and pick me up, and he would take me home, and I would just like go to the medicine cabinet right after my foot healed and take the extra ones and like sit and hang out at home all day.
How did like, well, have you ever done like any more serious drugs than that?
Well, yeah, and then when I got into high school, I started experimenting with other things. Like the guy I bought weed from also sold ecstasy, and he asked if I wanted to try it, and I definitely did. So one day, I gave him some money, and I got some pills, and I did it. And me and my friend were supposed to both do it together, and I freaked out about one of them and was like, I don't want my friend to die because this kid, David, overdosed on him. And, yeah, that was scary, but that's the first time I did ecstasy. And then I tried cocaine later on. And then right before my junior year, I started messing around with, like, mushrooms, and I bought acid for the first time. And that was definitely really crazy. Those, like, are a total different kind of high. It's not like up and giddy. It's like crazy things happen.
How did it affect your grades and like motivation?
It at first it didn't really have an effect. Like I was totally fine and was just like, I don't understand why they tell you drugs are bad when you can do it, and it's the same amount of things except everything's fun. But then maybe once I started getting into high school, I stopped worrying about my homework so much because I figured, whatever, it's easy, I can get it done. And I'd rather just smoke weed because my parents were giving me money at that time. And then it turned into like a habitual thing where like I would have to smoke like 3 or 4 times a day, and then it definitely started to interfere with my schoolwork because I would notice that like for every like opportunity I would go smoke weed and like blow off my homework, I would take it. Like I would rather smoke weed than do any of my homework. And then like even during off hours in study hall and stuff, I would make excuses just to leave.
Did doing drugs like affect your social life at all? Did it make it any different?
Yeah, definitely. Because in my opinion, I felt that like when I first was a freshman, I thought I was like kind of popular because I knew I was like, yeah, you know, like I'm doing it, you know, like this is what being a high school is all about. And then by junior year, I was like fully addicted to ecstasy, and I like definitely my social life just totally changed. Like no one wanted to talk to me or be around me because I acted weird, and I was always like freaking out and tweaking from not sleeping. And like I definitely lost a lot of good friends from it. They were like they saw I had a problem and saw I needed help. But I just didn't want to listen to any of that because I just thought I knew what I was doing. I was like, shut up, you guys are stupid. I have this under control.
Yeah. What was it like to be addicted to your drugs?
I don't know. Looking back, like it was a crazy experience because just like I don't really regret it, but I'm like glad I'm over that stage in my life because I would take ecstasy and stay up for like 2, 3 days straight, just tweaking out. And when at that point, like when you don't sleep, you start hallucinating and you're just like a different person. Like you are like looking in the mirror and you don't really recognize yourself because you're like forgetting all kinds of stuff. And you like have false like memories of things that happened that didn't happen. And I don't know, going about your day is just weird and like you don't feel normal. Inside everything is all different to you, but you have to pretend everything is like one way because it's like real life still, but you don't feel like it is because you've been tripping 2, 3 days straight, just tweaking out. And when at that point, like when you don't sleep, you start hallucinating and you're just like a different person. Like you are like looking in the mirror and you don't really recognize yourself because you're like forgetting all kinds of stuff, and you like have false like memories of things that happened that didn't happen. And I don't know, going about your day is just weird and like you don't feel normal. Inside everything is all different to you, but you have to pretend everything is like one way because it's like real life still, but you don't feel like it is because you've been tripping on drugs for so long.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So like, do you still enjoy using drugs?
I went to rehab and that was a really good experience for me. I really learned a lot about myself, and I guess what I'm trying to say is I made it 90 days clean out of rehab, and then I smoked weed again. But now I definitely, that's all I do. I don't really try to mess around with any other drugs. Like, I'm okay with just smoking weed. I'm not really an addict anymore, I would say, because I have a job and I can function as a normal human in society and not have to worry about when I'm going to get my next hit or when I'm going to get high again. A lot of things have changed from that point in my life, but I would still say that like no matter what, when you're using drugs, they like still affect you because I don't know, sometimes I notice that I'm not motivated for because you smoke weed, you just don't want to do anything, and that sucks.
What was rehab like?
It was crazy. There's a lot of kids in there who like I don't know, it's just a whole mix of different types of people. Like it was out in Florida, and some people were there for just doing like painkillers. Some people there were there for weed. Some people were there for heroin. There wasn't a lot of people who were in there for serious reasons like I was. There was maybe only 4 or 5 other kids out of like 30. And so like basically every day we would do like class exercises. Is why we think like we have these problems and stuff. And I don't know, it was just kind of, I thought it was kind of lame. But then we had to talk with our counselor and explain how we felt and what, like, I don't know, just about your life. You had to talk about your life with your counselor, and then basically you just hung out, and they tried to bring back the experiences of being a kid and just having like fun normally without drugs to try to change you a little bit. And it definitely does work, because you start to like think about all the bad stuff that you've done to like people around you and how you want to just change it back to like the old days when everything was all good and carefree. And you kind of really see how when drugs are in your life, nothing is like carefree, because you're always having to hide something. So that's what really opened my eyes. And you kind of really see how when drugs are in your life, nothing is like carefree, because you're always having to hide something. So that's what really opened my eyes. And that's kind of why I changed. So it definitely was an experience for the best.
What was like the turning point in your life that made you end up going to rehab?
I stole $4,000 from my mom to buy ecstasy pills with, and at the time I was selling them.
So what is your life like now, and like now that you're out of rehab?
I would say it's not where I thought it was gonna be, but it's definitely better than where it was. I am making steps in all the right directions. Like, I know school's not for me really, because I've been through so much that, you know, I just need an alternate route and actually start my life. I'm ready to be an adult. So I decided to go get my GED. I got it like right when I got out of rehab. I enlisted in the Army. I went and took my ASVAB test, and now I'm working a job full time. I work every day. So I mean, things are looking good, but I definitely, wish I wouldn't have ended up in this situation. I kind of wish I would have had a high school diploma.
And that was our story for our first student who did drugs. Now we will begin to tell the story of the non-drug user.
Okay, state your name and your age.
Danielle, 16.
Okay. How do you feel about drugs?
I feel like they are a bad choice.
Bad choice. Do you smoke?
No.
Is there a reason?
Yes, I have one lung and asthma, and being around smoke makes me cough a lot, and so smoking would not be the best decision.
Okay. I just covered up the screen. It's fine. Do you ever feel peer pressured into smoking?
No, but people ask me to do it a lot.
How do you respond?
I say no, thank you. Well, I don't say thank you. I say no because I know that it's not a good decision for me.
Okay, I understand that. Do you think your life would be different if you did smoke?
Yeah. I'd be in the hospital all day.
I understand. Do you think your grades or social life would change if you started smoking and there was no medical problem behind it?
My grades might, but I'm not sure my social life would, because I hang around people who smoke a lot, and I also am with people who don't smoke, and so I really don't think that my social life would change.
Life in high school will be hard, possibly if you let drugs take over your life.